Welcome, everybody. I'm Katherine Loftus. This is Note My Objection. Today, we're going to talk about some of the questions you guys had relative to the Brian Walshe trial. So for those who aren't watching, Brian Walshe is on trial for the homicide of his wife, Anna Walshe. He allegedly killed her in the early morning hours of January 1st of 2023, and the Commonwealth alleges subsequently dismembered her body and got rid of it. Now, one of the interesting sort of turn of events in this case is that just prior to jury impanelment, Mr. Walshe decided to change his plea relative to two of the charges. That's the disinterring of the body, which basically means in Massachusetts, taking the body and doing something with it you're not supposed to do, right? It'd be the same as like if you went to a cemetery and dug up a body. And secondly, misleading the police because he is, he's not alleged anymore, he admitted to it, basically spent days and days and days telling everybody his wife was missing when he had already thrown her away. Okay, so the question really now becomes, how does the Commonwealth prove, number one, that she's actually deceased? Because we don't have a body, and you hear a lot about these no body cases. It's different than it used to be, okay? It used to be, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when we didn't live in a surveillance state, if you didn't have a body, it might be tough to prove. We're in 2025 where virtually everything, as we can see in the trial and in the evidence we've seen presented so far, virtually everything is discoverable, okay? So, like, where you're driving, what you're looking at, what stores you're going to. We know from the Karen Reed case, the Apple Health data on your watch, your heart rate, your steps, your movements. We are in a full-blown surveillance state. So, word to the wise, anybody considering, doing anything like this, you're probably going to get caught, so not the best idea. Particularly when your defense is going to be, I found her in bed dead, and then I just decided to cut her up. Okay, pal. Sounds good. Good luck with that. We'll see. But so we put out on TikTok and Instagram if anybody had any questions. So I'm just going to go through some of them and see, what we think. So the first one is, will the jury get to know about the charges that Brian Walshe has already pled guilty to? So in a normal world, no. The answer would be no. Now, generally, you can't use – this is essentially what we call propensity evidence. So, you can't, as the prosecutor – the rules are different for the prosecutor and the defense – but you can't, as the prosecutor, say to the jury, hey, jury, find him guilty of the murder because he already admitted to getting rid of her body. So, clearly, he murdered her. He came in here before you guys even sat down, and he pled guilty, and he took responsibility. No, you can't do that. The prosecution is not allowed to do that. Because basically what the argument you're making is, because he did this part, he got rid of the body and lied to the police, it's more likely than not than he did this part. And that's not how the legal system works. However, in this case, the defense was trying to actually get into evidence that he pled to it, which is really interesting. I mean, it's a very unusual sort of set of circumstances which would lead a defense team to ask for admissions that their client disposed of the body to come in. And the Commonwealth actually opposed it. The judge addressed it a little bit because what her concern was, does it really come in? Because he hasn't been sentenced on it. So there's parts to a plea, right? Number one, you have to go through what's called a colloquy. That's when the judge asks you, what's your name? What's your date of birth? Did you go to school? You are under the influence of any drugs? Have you had a chance to talk to your attorney? Are you satisfied with their advice? Do you understand what the charges are against you? Are you making this decision willingly, knowingly, and voluntarily? All that kind of stuff. Then you hear the facts from the prosecution. You admit to it or you withdraw your plea. He admitted to it. And then usually we have a sentencing. Now, Judge Fernandez put off the sentencing because on the witness intimidation / misleading the police, that's the statute that it's under. The sentence for it is different depending on what the underlying offense is. So if the underlying offense is one in which can be punishable up to life in prison, then you could get 20 years on it. If it's anything else, you can get up to 10 on it. So my take is that she wants to give him the 20, but she wants to make sure that he's convicted of a charge that enables her to give her the 20. And until the jury comes back with a verdict on the murder, whether it's first degree, if they give lesser included offenses, second degree voluntary, we can talk a little bit about that maybe. She wants to wait to see whether they actually convict, so then she can sentence them. And if he's convicted of the murder, then she's going to give him I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that she's going to give him the 20 on it. And then it's up to, I believe it's up to 3 on the disinter in a body, or 2.5 in the house of correction. Somebody had a question about the differences in sentencing, and basically in a house of correction, which is what we consider jail, the maximum you can sentence someone to is 2.5 years. Not all charges have the ability to sentence to state prison. So in some, you'll hear like this: you could either go to the house of correction for 2.5 years, or you could go to state prison for up to 10 years. Now that's anywhere between the two, right? 0 to 2.5 or 0 to 10. So do I think they are likely to hear it? I don't think so, unless there's some sort of litigation prior to Walshe getting on the stand. And I don't know if he's actually going to get on the stand. As you guys know, if you've been watching me, we talk about this case. When he pled, my initial reaction was, okay, they're going to go for the argument that this was an accident, and then he freaked out. The problem is that they're going not for this was an accident, he freaked out, which I do think some people could buy. I absolutely do. I could buy it. I could buy that, like, okay, your life's falling apart, you're on federal, release, your wife's having an affair, you get in a fight, she's dead. Holy shit, what the fuck do I do now? I mean, not entirely reasonable to chop her up, but at least you can see like the sequence of events that would get you there. The problem that they have is that his attorney, Larry Tipton, got up and was like, oh, she was dead in bed. He nudged her. She fell off. And, I just decided to take her down to the basement, chop her up in a bunch of buckets, bring their son to Lowe's, boop, 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 check things out so we can clean mom up with the rags. Like, it's actually like beyond comprehension for me that this would be a believable defense, but we shall see. So I don't know if he's going to testify or not. There might be some way in which his admission could come out through him testifying, maybe through the defense, if that's what they're seeking. But generally, no, it's not going to come in. Let's see, what else do we have? The kids in Megan asked, are the kids in state custody? Would his mother, their grandmother, be allowed to get custody if she wanted? I think they are in state custody. We actually have not heard a lot about them. I mean, it's so sad. So Anna was from Serbia, so her family is not here. And then Walshe apparently only has his mother, but the mother's got some tangential sort of connection to like all of this going on. So I don't know if she had ever sought custody, if she even tried. She certainly could try. I mean, she's a family member. Generally, courts like to give children to family members, but given the circumstances, I would be surprised if she didn't try at all. I don't know if they're all together. I mean, it just makes me so sad. It makes me so sad to think about. Not only do like, that's the kind of stuff you think about. Okay, this guy, you took both of these kids, your children's parents, away. Okay, like, what's the worst that could happen? I don't understand. I never understand this kind of stuff, because it's like, all right, if you got divorced, it's terrible and it sucks, but I mean, life would go on. You do a couple years of federal prison, then your life would go on. You still have your kids. Your wife would be living in D.C. It'd be difficult, but now you're going to be in jail likely for the rest of your life. And your children don't have a mother or a father. I mean, it's crazy. Let's see. The jury will convict whether they prove it or not. Those creepy Lowe's self-checkout vids seal the deal. I don't disagree. And we talk a lot about, the burden of proof with juries, and the Commonwealth has to prove. The Commonwealth has to prove not only that she's deceased, but that the reason she's deceased is that he caused her death. I think that's difficult when you don't have any actual evidence of like what actually happened in that room. So or that house. Only Anna was there. Only Brian was there. So we don't have any firsthand accounts. Like, was it a stabbing? Was it a strangulation? Was it a beating? Was there, Was there a weapon involved? All this kind of stuff. We don't know. However, the circumstantial evidence is so strong. You know, people think like, oh, everything needs to be CSI exact, this and that. I mean, there's blood all over the house. He's lying to everybody and everyone. He's in various stores collecting clearly what is like a serial killer kit of like how to clean up a body. He's got his kid there with him. You know, I just don't think that I have a hard time believing that even if the Commonwealth is like on the line of like, oh, can the jury decide premeditation, this and that? My general belief is like they'd convict if they had if they had the opportunity of like, okay, he's gonna be off, we're gonna let him off, or convict him even though we don't know if it's quite premeditated, but he definitely killed her. I think a jury convicts because this is. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems obvious, right? Like the what happened here seems obvious to me, despite the presentation or attempt at a presentation of a different scenario from the defense. So we will see. Oh, someone said, how do you feel about her cheating on him? I know that is no reason to take someone's life, but how do you feel about that? I mean, personally, I don't feel like it has the relevance it has in terms of the legal case goes to his state of mind, right? Like, what did he know? What was he thinking? How was he acting? What are the decisions he was making based on the fact that he likely knew that his wife was cheating on him? I think that's really the substance of where it goes in the case. I mean, personally, listen, it is what it is. I mean, she cheated. You can't be shocked. It seems to me, to be honest, that she probably wanted to leave him and divorce him anyway, but she knew that if she did so, there would be disruption to her children's lives. Excuse me, because if she divorced him or left him while he was still out on his federal release, he wasn't going to be able to be home. He'd be going into federal prison. That's going to harm the children. He's around them all the time. This is their dad. So I think she was actually trying in a way to sort of give it some more time before she actually left him, because I don't think she wanted to harm him. But I don't think she wanted to be with him anymore, and clearly, found somebody else in D.C. Do I love that she wasn't with the kids on Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve and she was with this guy instead? No, I don't love that. I think there's this sort of feeling of she probably felt, alive again, reinvigorated, like this is a new relationship. This is a new phase in my life. But, cheating is never a good thing, but it's human nature. A lot of people do it, and I don't think that people are terrible people because they cheat. I think a lot of people are, and I think a lot of people make mistakes, and we're all human frailty. We're complicated. We're a complicated species. He's a psycho and should never be let out with society. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that, because what you see from the way he interacted following the days in which we now know that he chopped up her body and got rid of it. Like he just went on casually calling people, hey, haven't spoken to Anna. You think you could call, you think you could check in anybody, you think we should call, or people we should talk to. Meanwhile, she's like half in a dumpster and you've like taken a hacksaw to her. So that's a level of like psychopathy that is concerning. Now, do I think he would go out if he was, if he wasn't, say he gets off, do I think he's going to go out and like kill somebody else and do that? No, probably not. But you have the ability to do it. And not only did you do it to another person, you did it to the mother of your children. I mean, that's always what I have a hardest time about with stuff like this. Is like, this is the mother of your children. The mother of your children. Even if you despise her, how can you chop up the mother of your 3 little babies? I just can't. It's, I don't know, but people do it. People do it. It's pretty crazy. What else do we got? Oh, yeah, my heart bleeds for those 3 boys. They don't know how their life got turned upside down. Yeah, I mean, imagine you go from living in like a beautiful house in Cohasset, and then all of a sudden, what's going on? you don't have your mom. Your mom's gone. Mom's never coming back. Mom's gone. And you're little. So like, do you understand that? Probably not. And dad's gone. Do they know he's in jail? Like, what do they know? I don't know how old they are now. But imagine that little boy, the one who's with him. Imagine the little boy finding out later in life, the one who was with him at the self-checkout, where he's buying things to dismember this kid's mother. I mean, like real. If you really think about that, really think about the level of trauma that these children are going to endure. That's a level of trauma that you really can't escape, right? Like, you really can't escape. Like, I think about it with, like, Lindsay Clancy's husband, Patrick, or her parents. How do you escape that level of trauma? Like, that's, we look at people as they grow into adulthood, and you're like, oh, he had so much in his childhood. And a lot of people have really, really, really bad stuff, but they are able to sort of process it and overcome it and deal with it. How do you go through life saying, like, imagine when those little boys meet, a girl or a boy someday they want to marry, and you say, like, oh, my father's in prison because he murdered my mother and dismembered her body. Like, the level of trauma that is, I don't think you can get over. And I feel deep sympathy for children who have to live in an environment that they'll likely in some way never be able to escape. I'm sure it's not to say they can't live good, positive, healthy lives, but I mean, imagine if that's the start of your life. It's pretty tough. So his admission that he hacked her up and disposed of her can't be presented. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, somebody compared this to Fotis Duelist, was the same thing. Financed by the family's wife, hacked her up and drove all over Hartford, disposing of her body. Only he had the decency to take his own life. Never found her remains. Right, that's the one where that was in Connecticut, and I think they had 5 kids. He took his life, and his girlfriend, I believe, ultimately was convicted. But same kind of thing. Same kind of thing. It's like, I get it. And high conflict divorces can get really, really nasty. That's why I don't do anything like that. But, I mean, is that ever worth it? Is it ever worth it? Is the end result ever worth it? Like, do you think Brian Walshe thought that he was going to get away with it? Like, that's the question I have to ask myself. So, he is, like, think about this. Okay, let's just think about this. Let's buy his story that he found her dead in the morning. Okay, now you lie to everybody and chop her up. Like, you think they're not going to be like, oh, where's Anna? Okay, all right, we'll just buy the story that she got into an Uber and went to D.C. and, like, disappeared. So for somebody who, in many ways, he was very calculated in his decision-making, but it obviously shows that he's not that calculated and not that smart, because what did he think was going to happen? What did he think was going to happen? Did he think that nobody was going to ask these questions about Anna? Nobody was going to say, where is she? Nobody was going to say, like, well, she didn't get on the flight and she didn't get in an Uber. So, like, where'd she go, Brian? You were the last one to see her, Brian. It's pretty, he's thinks he's much smarter than he is, right? So he was like 3 steps ahead, but the 3 steps ahead didn't really cover his tracks. They only covered his tracks for the short term. So he was like, it really goes to kind of like panic mode. He's able to kind of keep his composure even while things are falling apart, but he's not doing things that make sense in his long-term plan of how to get away with it. Like, everything he was doing was obviously he was not going to get away with it. You calling people on January 4th saying, hey, have you heard from her? Oh, she's just you call, the police are involved. You think they're just going to drop it? Oh, she just left her 3 kids. So not very smart. We have, I think, what's going to be the last day of testimony today, and then we will see what we're going to hear from the Walshe defense. Now, the question ultimately will be, will he testify? And as you guys know, the general idea is never put a client on the stand, never allow a client to testify, because you just never know. The only way really to present their version of events, though, is to put him on the stand. So I think if they want to argue that in closing, that's what they're going to have to do. In order to argue he found her dead in the bed in closing arguments, he has to testify to that because there's no other evidence that indicates that. He has to get on the stand and say that if that's what they want to argue in closing. Now, so he might do that. He might just get on the stand. They might just be crazy enough to put him on the stand. I think it's going to be a bloodbath if they do because, listen, you have a very wide scope in cross-examination. It's not simply limited to what, small little things. I mean, if you have a criminal defendant up there who you have on video purchasing, all of these supplies, all of the calls that he made, everything he did, you can question him on all that. So I think it's going to be problematic for Mr. Walshe if he gets on the stand, but I don't think he has any other defense if he doesn't. So we shall see. Thanks for listening. I'm Katherine. If you like this, I would appreciate you subscribing, sharing everywhere. We have new merch up. It's linked in all my bios, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.